Just testing. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Hey,
we
Denise.
can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about losing the link. I don't know what I did with it.
No problem, no problem. That was easy.
Good.
So the event is live and it's also on YouTube Live.
Okay.
So I think we have one viewer on there so far. So I just wanted to let you know.
Great. Thank you so much.
Amanda's saying you need to resend the prompt. She can't find, oh, I'm supposed to do that, I guess.
I can send it
Yes,
to her.
Gwen, if you wouldn't mind. For some reason, they're not showing up in my email. I don't know why.
Oh, I sent them.
No, I know. And I saw them come in. I'm wondering, sometimes I see things come in and they land in my spam folder. And I didn't check there.
Mhm. Okay. Maybe I didn't send it to you. I sent it to you. Did you get it?
No, I'm not yet. Hold on one second. I'm not able to find it yet.
I just sent it.
Oh, awesome. Great. I'm sure I'll
Maybe I didn't
wait
send
for
it.
it to go. I got it, Gwen. Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. Do people usually get on early?
You know, it depends on the event. It's such a beautiful day out, so.
Yeah, this is true. It really is.
And Gwen, I took off the first page of that presentation, right? It's just the 2 slides?
It's 2 slides.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm. Anne is showing up as an attendee. Oh, you moved her up. Okay.
Noticing that too.
Yeah, she just moved her up to a panelist.
Good. Thank you, Lisa.
There's Anne. Hi,
Hi.
Anne.
Hi, you guys.
Good. Good to see you.
Good
This
to
might
see
be
you.
a quicker event than we.
We can talk among ourselves if need be.
I'm not sure
Well,
that WebEx has that function, Anne. I think we may be live.
Lisa, will you make me a presenter when the time comes? Thank you.
Yep, you should have it now.
Got it.
Just think how much you guys have learned in this last year.
About how to use a computer.
Yes, exactly.
All these.
I mean, look at the two of them. They just like did
Yeah.
something that I don't even understand.
They're
But it's,
just naturals at it, aren't they?
yeah,
It's true.
but I think it took some work.
That's probably true too.
Where's our mutual friend, Barbara?
Where's Barbara?
She was gonna get on at 1:45.
Oh, really?
Well, she might not have been, yeah.
She hasn't sent any messages saying she was having a problem, so.
I'll tell you, it's so nice to have had Lisa's telephone number. Sometimes you're just like, feel so lost in a call like this.
Yeah, well, that's good. Thanks for thinking
Yeah.
you needed it.
It's just like, it's your final fallback. You can like, oh wait, I'm completely lost. What am I gonna do?
Totally understood.
Oh, and Amanda's gonna be on. Is Amanda there yet? Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's there. Yeah.
Okay, so
Hi
Amanda's
there.
managing slides. Oh,
Right.
I can't change it. It's already written to Lisa.
Oh, that's fine.
Just kidding.
I'll answer to Lisa, no problem.
Isn't it funny? You just get that way. I'll answer to anything too, Amanda. Sometimes people get mad if it's ANN versus ANNE. I just think it's really great that they got that close.
That's how I feel about my name. Gwen, it's Gwen with 2 N's. But
Yes, you were a real pain. I'm used to it now, Gwen. But boy, in the beginning, I'm like, oh, I really want to impress this woman by getting it right.
yeah. You see Barbara's Lisa's in as an attendee.
Oh, so she can come up in the world too.
There she goes.
And I will start my video. All right.
At our last historic Vienna board meeting, one of the people announced this meeting, but nobody said whether they were coming or not, but they were interested.
Yeah, a couple of people said that they were coming, they were interested, and it's,
Okay.
let's see.
You wonder,
Luann,
That's
you wonder with the announcement
James.
of the Floyd decision, how many people will be involved with that rather than listening to us?
Yeah.
hi Barbara.
That's true.
I wonder with the 72 degrees and sunny, I wonder,
That's another thought. That's true.
But we have one attendee, Mr. Carson.
Good.
Hey, hi, Jim.
we'll have a few.
Oh yeah, no problem. We're so used to talking about it. We can talk to the wall. We're so used to it.
My challenge is always making sure I can get there. So if I'm here, that's good.
That's right. You've already had the main trial by fire, Barbara.
Right.
So when do we have, hold on, let's see. This is also going out, Gwen, is it not on
Facebook Live or something?
Facebook Live, YouTube Live?
YouTube.
Live. YouTube Live.
You too.
Yes, Supervisor Alcorn, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we
Lisa-
have people on that and it's, yes, we have a person on that and it's live right now.
Okay, great.
Behave, right?
We'll give everybody a minute or two before we get started. Almost 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, we'll wait until we get to one more minute. Let's give everybody 1 minute. I know some people don't use the Cisco WebEx platform, and so I know some folks it takes a little while to get.
Boy, isn't that true?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, we've done a number of these types of meetings and events, and once you get the hang of it, and then once you get on, it actually works pretty well. So.
Well, we were, let's see. The History Commission had a couple of meetings by conference call, I guess.
It's when we start, it's when we first started.
In June, maybe. I guess we skipped April, and then we just started meeting right away, but by voice,
It's
you know,
awful.
20 people on a voice. And then Denise got us on WebEx, and we all screamed and yelled, but we do okay.
Well, fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Walter Alcorn. I'm the Hunter Mill District Supervisor. Appreciate folks spending a little bit of time on this beautiful evening with this topic, and I'm afraid we chose a tough competitor with the weather, but that's okay. This is an opportunity, and frankly, this will also be recorded and put onto the Hunter Mill District webpage. So folks that are out enjoying the weather but wanted to see this will have an opportunity to do so as well. But this is a town hall, this format, so there'll be an introduction and an overview provided. And then we'll open it up to questions and comments. So I wanted to first thank two special people that are going to be presenting tonight. Ann Stuntz and Barbara Nafe, thank you so much for everything that you have been doing for Fairfax County and for the History Commission. We are blessed in the Hunter Mill District to have two wonderful folks on the History Commission. And of course, tonight we're going to hear from you all on the inventory of Confederate names that the History Commission did. And then afterwards, I look forward to a discussion and questions or comments that folks might have on what we do with this inventory and what might be some next steps. So there are some things that I'll be happy to address or others in terms of other things that are underway. But the main point tonight is to get this background from Ann and Barbara, and then to hear from anybody that has shown up here as an attendee and to have a discussion. So thank you. And Ann, should I turn it over to you or Barbara? Which one?
And
I get to start for some reason. We're just
Okay.
used to it that way. So, all set?
yeah,
Okay, thank you for inviting us, Walter. Supervisor Alcorn. It's always a treat to be part of one of these. Again, I'm Ann Stuntz. I'm immediate past president of the Fairfax County History Commission, and I'll be joined by Barbara Nafe, resident of Reston, who was chairman of the main committee that produced and spearheaded this report. She'll speak after me, and then we'll turn it over to Denise Dressel of DPD. Speaking of Denise, we've gotten a ton of support from county staff to work on this project, particularly Denise of DPD, also Chris Barbashak in the Virginia room, and of course, Liz Crowell at the Park Authority. She might even join us tonight. Amanda, will you show us the cover of the report? It's got the URL on there too, and that's also in the announcement of this meeting, and you can Google it. It's easy to find. So it looks very innocent here. It is over 500 pages, but there's a lot of information. It's the culmination of a many-month process. It started in June when Supervisors Alcorn and Palchik passed a board matter asking for it, a full inventory of Confederate street names, monuments, and public places in Fairfax County and on Fairfax County-owned property. So we had to figure out, well, what exactly? So it boiled down to a comprehensive list of history of places in Fairfax County named after people who held military or governmental responsibilities under the authority of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War, 1861 to 65. So that's what it looks like, and that's the URL, but we don't need to, we can stop, Amanda. Now we can go back to just us. Thank you. In July, after that meeting, where they did the board matter, we met with them to say, okay, let's really pin this down. What are we looking for? And towns were included. So we got 3 towns. Herndon, Vienna, and Clifton were included. Public places were defined to also include privately owned spaces that are used by the public. So that could include shopping centers, condos, all sorts of things. Cities were excluded because they do their own thing. We were asked to design the process to focus on well-known Confederate officers and on locally well-known Confederates. And then we added Civil War interpretive markers, those educational markers added to the request so that the supervisors could get a feel for how the story of the Civil War is currently told by these educational markers. So we've created a committee, and Barbara Naif got to be the chairman of it. And this was to guide and perform the research and then share the whole process with the whole commission. So we started off figuring out the methodology. First, County GIS created a list of all the place names in the county. And I think we were all pretty stunned to know that there were 26,000 street names and place names. And places are all sorts of things. They're shopping centers, subdivisions, civic associations, community centers, something called landmarks, and even streams. So it's, GIS has all this stuff. So this big list was created. Then the next conundrum was there are a lot of Confederate names, thousands, hundreds of thousands of names. So how do you pick how do you narrow that down to a number you can work with? Through a process, it was whittled down to 650 well-known Confederate officers and leaders, and also locally well-known Confederates. So then, yay for summer intern Matt of Hunter Mill District, who did the filtering, the computer work to filter the names between those 2 lists for matches. And that took out over half of the list. Still meant we had thousands to look at, but it was better than twice that many. We could eliminate easy ones that look like they could be names of people by the computer, but we knew they weren't. Crow's Nest or Town Green, that's not a person named Crow. It's not a person named Green. So then by the end of that process, we had a list and we started researching it. And we took it by magisterial district. We each took on a district. So, so the list comes up that way. Out of the 26,552 assets that we looked at, it boiled down to 157 resources within the county that are confirmed Confederate associations. And we're on the low end. Hunter Mill has 4, Lee has 3. Who else is in the single digits? Drainesville is 9, and Mount Vernon has none. And so then some of the bigger ones are Sully. You can see there's a big chart in the report. So Amanda, have a look at let them see the Hunter Mill map, because we showed the 4 that are on the So here's a map stolen from the county website with these 4 locations roughly pasted in. So they're pretty much around the edges. Starting at the bottom, I'll read it to you. It says Lee Manor subdivision. When you look at a map, that looks like it's really all in our neighbor Providence, but a little tiny bit of it is actually, I'm not sure even an address is in our district, but it's there. There are 2 Lee names, and there are, of course, a lot of things named after Lee in the county. We get 2 of them in this district. Over on the left, on the bottom, off of what is it? It's between Fox Mill and the Reston Parkway. You've got Fort Lee Street. And that one, most of these have a whole page on them. You'll see in the report that describe where it is, what we know about it, and what we've concluded about it. And in this one, we know there's a Fort Lee, New Jersey, but we can't think of any reason why it would be named after a place in New Jersey. But there is a Fort Lee in Prince George County, Virginia, and it was originally called Camp Lee. This was dedicated in 1974. We put it on the list because it makes sense that it be a Robert E. Lee name. Some are more obvious. Over near me, I'm over just outside Vienna. So looking at the bottom of the map, do you see the one that's called Mosby Landing Condos? That's a condominium complex from the 1970s. And this is so it's named after John Singleton Mosby, the well-known Confederate raider, guerrilla. There's a story about him, and this is one reason you get some of these names. There's a long-standing story about an incident between the Confederate Mosby and some Union troops, and it occurred over there in this property, the 15-acre property where these condos are. So in the 1970s, they thought, well, that's a cute name. We'll name it after that. They're obviously a private organization. So that's Mosby's Landing. And then last but not least is also down there right underneath the Vienna name, you'll see Wade Hampton Drive. And that's another, so Wade Hampton was a South Carolina general, and he was active in Northern Virginia. The reason this street is named after him, interestingly, it's another reason to name a street. It was named as in recognition of the 100th anniversary of the commemoration of the Civil War. 1961 was just every magazine, Life magazine, every newspaper they were recognizing the 100th anniversary of the Civil War nationwide. And so the town of Vienna was doing a big reenactment of the Battle of Vienna, and they decided to rename this little one block. It was an extension of Lewis Street, but in recognition of the 100th anniversary of the Civil War, the town named it Wade Hampton after this Southern general who had been through Vienna in the early 1860s. So that's that's another reason to name a street after a Confederate. The town has appointed an ad hoc group to look at this street name and consider alternatives. So we'll keep tabs on how that's going. I think it's going well. It's quite a little street, not too many residents on it, because it's a pain to make changes in the paperwork like that. Okay, that's all I have to share in terms of slides, Amanda. Thank you for putting that up. We can put it up later if anybody has questions. And over to you, Barbara.
Okay, thank you, Anne. I'm going to talk a little bit about the content of the report. And those of you that have found the Confederate Names Inventory Report on our History Commission website are aware of its link, as Anne mentioned. We will not ask how many have read its 500 pages. We assure everyone with that intent that the bulk of the report is research detail. That research confirmed what those of us interested in our history already knew, that Fairfax County was a crossroads of war. Combatants, both Union and Confederate, foraged, camped, marched, clashed, fought, and suffered both victory and defeat here. The narrative sections of our report address this. The initial narrative, the Civil War in Fairfax County, is an overview only. When the draft essay was posted on the commission website in preparation for discussion and approval, we received several communications expressing concern that some events and actions were not included. While we understood our focus had to be providing historical context within the full report for the Board of Supervisors and not a nuanced military chronology. Researching those 650 Confederate associated names led to the need to establish a county historical family names designation. Many Fairfax County men who joined the Confederate forces were the scions of families whose county residence not only predated the Civil War, but in some cases extended to at least mid-18th century. Their names had been attached to places such as roads, stream fords, mills, and small communities to identify the locations of their homes or their businesses. Many such name places survive today. Therefore, when research proved the particular asset name predated the Civil War and an individual's service in the Confederacy, it received a historical family names designation. Two examples are very familiar to you: Fox Mill and Hunter Mill Roads, and Hunter Mill District itself. In addition, during the post-war years and well into the 20th century, acres of county farmland were sold for development, as we all know. The resulting subdivision, street, and public space names could retain the family names associated with the acreage, reflecting a heritage of place. A previous generation's Confederate service was not a factor in these instances, and therefore, confirmed through research, that asset was also given historic family name designation. The most challenging narrative to write was that concerning the lost cause ideology. There was an urging by some to exclude it from the report altogether or to soften its tone. The reactions proved the point. The perspective of the lost cause had been embraced by generations. Our report essay offers information on its creation, the circumstances in the post-war South where it thrived, the expanded promulgation of its rationale, and its effects in Fairfax County. Echoes of the lost cause element of remembering reemerged during the 1960s, 100 years after the Civil War. The commission, as Anne mentioned, the commission was also asked to survey the various interpretive markers located throughout the county. The full inventory of them, organized by districts, is in the report appendices. Their purpose is public education, and they verify the circumstances of Fairfax County during the Civil War as a crossroads of war. That is, of the total 94 markers, 49 reference both Union and Confederate actions or persons. The content of 27 focuses on a Confederate and 18 on the Union. The commission's concluding task in creating the Confederate names inventory was to offer recommendations to the supervisors on how to proceed with the information gathered. We provided two. We proposed as a critical element of decision-making regarding the disposition of Confederate-linked assets, a robust public process be initiated and pursued by the board, something Supervisor Alcorn is doing, I believe, with this town hall. We asked that the research, as well as the final inventory report, be placed in the library's Virginia room and available for use, and this has been done. I would like to offer an addendum of sorts to the report. In developing the Confederate names inventory, we recognized again that in terms of the Civil War, the military history is well documented in public places, but the social history much less so, particularly that of African American communities, not only during the war years, but also in the 18th century and well into the 20th century. Prior to the Commission's Confederate Names Inventory assignment, several commissioners had been discussing the ways and means of beginning work on researching and documenting African American history. Therefore, with the near completion of the inventory, last October, the Commission approved as a major initiative for 2021, development of a research inventory identifying locations, publications, documents, records, and such miscellaneous materials that provide access into the histories of African American communities throughout the county. We took the opportunity of the momentary platform provided by our presentation of the Confederate Names Inventory to the supervisors to announce to them the Commission's plans. We have started by identifying and listing the communities. Gum Springs and Lincolnia are well known. Many others now only are memories held. Some continue as solitary churches or a few gravestones. For so many generations, their stories, most often known only by the Black community, have been separate and not known by the majority of county residents. Yet they are integral to our full Fairfax County history, and we want to ensure they are included. I would like to offer one example. In 1968, when the amenities of Newtown Reston were being promoted to prospective homeowners, 4 miles away in the northeast corner of Herndon, the residents of Cooktown had pride of place and a long history, but no sewer service, gas, water. Few had any electricity. One had indoor plumbing. I just learned of this community, and I have lived in Reston for so many years. It's a perfect example. The Commission is excited to be pursuing this initiative, and we will be sharing our information on the Commission website. So thank you very much. It's been an honor, lots of work, but an honor and a pleasure to do our work. Denise, I think you might be next.
Yeah, and Denise, before you go, Barbara, I want to thank you, that last little part. Thank you so much for preserving that history. I know there are a number of communities, now former communities in Fairfax County, and I remember visiting one myself back in 1987 behind the Dunloring Fire Station, just south of Tyson's. Was another small community that had been there since the end of the Civil War. So anyway, thank you for doing that, and we'll talk more about that later. I think
All right,
we have some
good.
more
Thank you.
leads for communities.
Thank
So
you.
yes, Denise, thank you very much. Denise, I did not introduce you, but Denise Dressel from DPD, Department of Planning and Development. Thank you so much for being here and talking a little bit about next steps and additional information on how county staff is supporting these efforts. So thank you, Denise.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I will say that I am speaking to what the board has directed staff to. So Supervisor Alcorn, if you want to address this, that's fine. All my talking points came straight from board directives, so I'll go ahead. So the Board of Supervisors requested, regarding the 2 major roads, they requested that staff provide information on the process that the board would need to go through to change the names of the 2 primary roads, Lee Highway and Lee Jackson Memorial Highway. Staff recommended that the board appoint a task force made up of representatives from pertinent boards, authorities, and commissions, outside relevant agencies, and other organizations the board would like to add, to develop a process to engage the community to discuss whether the names of the roads should be changed, the implications of changing the names, and to consider alternative names. Once the task force submits its report to the board, staff recommends that the board hold 1 or more public hearings to receive additional public hearings to receive formal public comment. If the board decides to move forward with the name changes, it must pass a resolution requesting that the Commonwealth Transportation Board officially change the names, and the board would have to agree to pay for the associated costs of changing the names. Additionally, if the board decides to move forward with the name changes, staff is recommending that the board also approve budget consideration item to address the costs associated with changing the road signs and assist local businesses with changing their addresses and company materials. The board requested that staff collect specific suggestions for the makeup of the task force and report back to them with further recommendations in May. Regarding the subdivision street names and the subdivision names themselves, the board requested that staff provide information to citizens on the process for changing road names within subdivisions and changing the names of subdivisions themselves. And staff from Land Development Services has pulled together that information on both processes. That information is posted on the Land Development Services website under addressing and street names. And you can find the information if you just Google Fairfax County street name change. That's how I found it. And then regarding other identified resources, the board's given no further instructions to staff at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denise. Appreciate that. Let's now go ahead, and I'm going to try to give instructions on how folks can get attention. And it's been a while, so I think I remember this, but so basically we want you electronically to raise your hand. And if I get this wrong, somebody needs to tell me, but I think what you need to do is to click on the participants button. And when you do that, you should see a little drawing of a hand. And if you put your cursor over that or the arrow, it'll say raise hand. So actually, if you click on participants, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Lisa, did I get that right? I'm not sure I told that to you.
No, it's, yep, that's absolutely correct. And I'm
Okay.
keeping an eye out, so.
Okay. So does anyone at this point have, oh, there's a hands up. All right, it's working. Lisa, go ahead. And
There you go. It's James Carson. You can speak now.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know how to turn my camera on, so I'll just be a ghost in the room, but a ghost who has a voice. So I don't really have a question, but first of all, I want to congratulate the group, the commission, for an unbelievably impressive piece of work. This is so important to helping preserve the history of Fairfax County. This really is a major contribution to the preservation of our county's history. So I've talked to Anne personally about this in the past, and I'm just overwhelmed. I will confess I have not read all 500 pages, but I have skimmed through all 500 pages, and it's really impressive. I come at this as an amateur historian. I've published 2 books, one of which is a regimental history. Both books focus heavily on Fairfax County because my great-grandfather commanded a Union Army regiment here in Vienna, the 16th New York Cavalry. And I'm currently involved in 2 additional projects, one of which focusing on the biographies of the 26 men who captured and killed John Wilkes Booth. And the other is a project being undertaken by a professor at Christopher Newport University to collect and publish the biographies of all the Union Army and Navy, Army generals and Union Navy admirals who were born in the state of Virginia. So far, I don't think any of them were from Fairfax County, but close by, Warrenton and Staunton and areas like that. So I come at this as a historian, and I was very glad to see that there is also an inventory of the historical markers, because it's the one place that an individual interested in the history of the county and the war, the Civil War, can go and find where all those historical markers are. And so that is also a great contribution. So I remain interested in how this develops over time. And but congratulations and thanks again to everyone who's been involved.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. Anne or Barbara, did you want to say?
Ah, there's the book.
I
That's
just
a
wanted
great
to
plug.
say I had one of your books right here, Jim, because I do refer to it now and then.
Yeah, it wasn't a big money maker, but it was a
Thank
labor
you.
of love.
It's fabulous.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank
And
you.
we appreciate being appreciated for the work. So thank you.
And I have to say, I did not read all 500 pages either, but like Jim, I did skim through. I actually did. I looked at every page because there's really interesting things on many of those pages. I actually learned quite a bit about some of the. I didn't realize some of those place names in the background. The Stringfellow Road piece. Anyway,
Yeah.
I encourage folks to anyway take a look. But thank you, Jim, very much. Any other comments or questions? Anyone else? So to raise your hand electronically, click on participants and then go to that little hand.
There's John. There's two.
Oh, there are. Oh, good
John-
grief! Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you want to go ahead and unmute?
It
Looks
was,
like Weston Strong.
unmuting, yes, unmuting Weston Strong. They should be able to speak now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm-
Yes, is that Sarah?
Yes, this is Sarah. I'm going to follow Jim's example. I can't figure out my camera as well. But
That's okay. I'm not sure it's even possible. So thank you.
It's not, yeah, the attendees aren't on camera.
but that makes me feel better. But I wanted to share, I think the work you've done is amazing. I want to thank Barbara and Anne for the amount of work they've put in. But here's where we're part of the movement to remove the Marr Monument. Our infamous black tarp covering the Marr Monument was part of the storyline, and we worked very closely with Walter and other supervisors who were very supportive. We want to thank you for taking that effort, and I think this is the automatic next step. So we're excited to see where we go, and we absolutely are in support of removing the Confederate names. I understand the historic background, but we've got wonderful books in museums where we can keep our history as part of the narrative. So that's my only comment. Thank you. And thanks again, Barbara and Anne, for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. And I see John Farrell has his hand up.
John, you should be able to go ahead.
Thank you, Lisa. Let me join my cohort in crime here, Sarah, and Jim, and thanking Barbara and Anne and the staff for all their very, very hard work. To Jim, I want to pass on a name he might want to look at regarding people from Fairfax who fought in the Civil War. There's a man named John Davidson, and I encourage you to take a look at him, Jim. John Davidson was born here in Fairfax. He fought for the Union, and after the Civil War, he was the commanding officer of the regiment known as the Buffalo Soldiers. And I've been trying to get somebody to name something after that man because he was a Caucasian, but after his service, he was called Black Jack, and they used Black Jack as a pejorative because he was well thought of by his troops and took good care of them. One of the things that people may not know is that up to a third of the cowboys in the West were African American. And so were a lot of the soldiers in the West after the Civil War. It was a place where freedmen had a chance at a decent life. One of the questions I have, Walter, and it may be that you need to amend your charge to this group, but there are a substantial number of names, and Barbara kind of picked it up with lost cause, but there are a substantial number of names, place names in the county that are associated with massive resistance. And the one that jumps out most prominent with me, and who's outside the ambit of this study, is W.T. Woodson. Wilbur Woodson was a raging racist. My sister got an award, I think, from the History Commission for her history of the Pemmon Hill subdivision. And Patricia Farrell Donahue, Dr. Patricia Farrell Donahue. Let me not forget the doctor. She'll remind me. But in the course of doing her research on the Pemmon Hill subdivision, she came across Wilbur's 1959 speech, which would set your hair on fire with the aggressive, racist attitude he demonstrated. And if you do any research into the principles of what were then called the college schools, what's now Louise Archer and some Vienna college schools, those principles will tell you how abused they were by W.T. Woodson. Now, I understand that's outside the supervisor's control, Walter, and I get that. But I gotta believe that his is not the only name that's venerated and glorified that comes out of the massive resistance period. And of course, as Barbara kind of alluded to earlier, the lost cause gave us a lot of those place names in reaction to Brown versus School Board. That's where we got Jeb Stewart, that high school. That's where we got Robert E. Lee High School. That's where we got. And so it may be that you need to amend your charge, Walter, to the commission to then go back and look at which proponents. I mean, believe it or not, Walter, we actually had at one point, you may remember, the Carter Glass Regional Library over at Lake Ann.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Carter Glass, I'm not going to quote what he said in the 1902 Constitution, but at the end of that constitutional session, he bragged that and he didn't use the words I'm going to use, he used the N-word, that no person who is African American would ever vote again in Virginia.
Right.
And yet we had a library in Reston, of all places, named for Carter Glass. So I just think that getting rid of the Confederate names is not the end of the exercise, that going back and taking a look at the extent to which we glorified or venerated or honored the proponents of massive resistance also needs to be examined. Now, there may not be a lot of names like that, but a lot of the names that are in the report, those names were given during the period of massive resistance, 55 to 65. And that's where a lot of the Confederate names came about. Barbara, you want to say something?
Yeah, I did when you're finished. Yes, when you read the report, there is more details in the essay on the lost cause with examples of what happened here in Fairfax County. And the other thing that Ann and I didn't mention directly is that the school names have been studied and marked through the school board, and so we didn't include them in our report, but we're certainly very aware. So that was beyond our purview. We did not do churches, cemeteries, federal lands, or the schools because the school board was doing that. But you're absolutely right. And yes, fortunately, Carter Glass is no longer there. In fact, that is now the site of the Reston Museum. Trust and Museum. But it was, and I'm one of the, I had no idea the story of Carter Glass. But that's happening. If I could just say this is happening. I went to school at Duke, and I went to, the history department was in a building called Carr Building, and that's what it was. And they have since, it's now called the History building because these are people that donated a lot of land to build Duke, but then when you learned about what they were like, they were racist and all of that. So we have the issue here, but my point is it's everywhere. And I, for one, am encouraged that people are becoming aware of that. But yes, so thank you for speaking up about it.
Yes, thank you, Barbara, for saying that. And also, John, thank you very much for your suggestion and your comments. Yeah, I think this is the beginning of a discussion. Actually, I hope there to be more thorough discussion of our history and some self-reflection on who we glorify, what we glorify, and frankly how we might reflect our present values in some of these decisions that are made. I do actually want to ask Jim Carson. Jim, I think you're still there. Just curious, Jim, if the person that John mentioned as a Buffalo Soldier, if that's somebody you're familiar with.
No, not at all. I've written his name down, and I will take a look at it. But no, I'm not familiar with that name.
There is a Wikipedia page.
Okay.
On I think it's Captain Davidson.
Uh-huh. Is
And
it Davidson?
Davidson, yeah.
Davidson. Okay.
Yeah, and there's nothing named after him. The other thing, Walter, is, and I've been trying to do this with the school board, is there are a lot of Black families who were instrumental in the litigation that led to a lot of the decisions that came out, and they came out of Fairfax. And we don't have any place names honoring them. And I don't have it right in front of me, but I have written them down. The Brown versus School Board has a case from Fairfax consolidated in it. And there are, in fact, it's in my sister's book. She goes through a list of the families in Fairfax who fought Wilbur Woodson to try and integrate our schools. Nowhere do we venerate them. Nowhere do we honor them. And that's an oversight. We need to do something to make sure that those people are commemorated for their courage in taking on the white establishment in order to integrate our schools. And we haven't done it yet in past time. Their families are, moving away. They're not here anymore. And so we really need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Great points. I understand. I got a message that we have an attendee who needs to be unmuted. Lisa, do we have somebody?
James Lewis. James, you can go ahead.
Great.
Who is
Lisa, are you sure?
Yes, James, are you there? I unmuted you.
Who are you talking to? Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Jim Lewis.
Hey, Jim. All right. There you are.
Great.
Well, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. And thanks for doing this. It's the beginning of a very interesting journey, I'm sure, as we've discussed in the past. I, too, for some reason, the video is not working for me, so I'll just speak. Really, 2 or 3 very short points to make here. It's interesting you bring up social history as lacking. I totally agree with that. And I've done a lot of markers. A few folks here are aware of my activities historically, locally. And that was the whole reason for Hunter Mill Defense League creating and putting out Danger Between the Lines. We knew there was a heck of an opportunity that no one had ever heard in the county because it's always been boom, boom. And we said, okay, we're not going to be doing that. Now, we provide some context with in the story or in the DVD, but it really focused on the neighbors and the community on both sides of the conflict, up and down Hunter Mill Road. And if you're not aware, most everybody went to jail. Okay, Confederate families as well as Union families. I mean, you pick it. Libby and Richmond, Capitol Prison in D.C. Depends on who wanted what when. So you always have two sides to every story, obviously. So anyway, I totally agree with what has been stated here about the social history. It's been, quite frankly, too much military and not enough context, if you will, as to what folks endured. Again, on both sides, because they both went through hell for those 4 years in this particular area. And we were literally between the lines, hence we saw it all, as has been previously said. The other thing that, and Jim Carson, how you doing, buddy? Been a while. He and I are both very familiar with, hey, buddy, with the Cavalry Brigade up on Air Hill and all of that. Anyway, let me see what else I have. Oh, the Buffalo Soldiers. That's too good not to do a marker. It's a very storied group. There are opportunities if you get people around on a table and start brainstorming and war room, whatever you want to call it. You know, there are a number of stories, again, on both sides of the conflict that are worthy of communicating and educating, if you will, the folks locally, which is what we try to do with Hunter Mill Defense League. We've got 11 markers up within 7.2 miles. So I think we've attempted to do that. So the other thing that I'd like to point out, if I could, I've just had a couple notes down here. My wish would be, as we move forward, that we attempt to work together, as tough as that could be, in certain instances and all of that. But from what I've heard about W.T. Woodson, I've heard this before, I think that probably needs to be addressed. I mean, I don't think the history community would really be offended by that. But alongside that, I think we need to, and I've said this to Walter in the past, we need to really consider additional signage, markers. If you want to call it cohabitation, coexist, whatever bumper sticker you want to look at that you'll see out in the parking lots, let's see if we can do it, because that's really the inclusive, I think, nature and objective that I believe we're all trying to come to. And there have been wrongs in the past. I think historians, the local historians and the history community would admit that. So if there are things that could be done to alleviate that issue and tell a different side and illuminate some of the other problems that existed during the war, I don't know if anybody is against that. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jim. Jim, are you going to start doing a bus tour again? You gonna kick that back up?
Walter, that's a great question. I've had to reschedule it 3 times.
Okay.
And I do have it rescheduled for November 6th at the moment. But while this has all been going on, I continually get requests to do presentations about history, from colonial history up through the World War II. Civil War is just part of the program. And as a result of that, at the end of my presentations, I'll flip up my name and, you know, email address should anybody want to be contacted if I'm going to be doing a tour in the future. No commitment on anybody's part. And I tell you what, I am swamped with feedback. And I do probably about 3 or 4 presentations a month. And I'm talking OLLI, AARP, that one went national. There were over 300 people on it. And it was all about Vienna. There you go, Ann. And they loved it. So yes, I hope to begin to be able to pull this thing together by November 6th. We'll see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
All right, Jim. Well, I'm looking forward to doing that. I've never done one of those yet, and so
I'd love to have you.
do look forward to that. So yes, let's stay in touch on that. And thank you for doing all that. That's
Oh, you're very welcome. And thanks for everybody for all their efforts. That report was impressive.
Thank
The
you.
history of the community was impressed by the amount of effort that went into that report. I could tell you that.
Thank
So
you.
obviously, we're
Yeah.
looking forward to next steps.
great. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Walter.
Lisa, do we have any other hands up?
I do not see any other hands up. If someone wants to talk and is having difficulty finding where you put your hand up, if you just want to send something in the chat.
Okay, let's do that. And I'll just fill just a little bit of time to see if there's anybody else that would like to make a comment or ask a question. But I think one of the things that it's interesting in the earlier conversation and discussion or comments that were made, it's so interesting to me how in talking about this, many of us can't help but relate it to our own lives. And, you know, either we ourselves have some connection, or, you know, a relative or somebody we know has some connection to this history. And I think that actually is something I would like to see us have more opportunities to exchange our perspective, our experience, and our identity. Really, it's an identity thing for many of us. You know, John Farrell was talking earlier about massive resistance. Certainly in my family, that was a very big deal. My father was a school superintendent in Chesterfield County from 1964 to 1969, and desegregated the schools in Chesterfield County. So right at the end of massive resistance, you know, he had that, and I did get the opportunity to meet not too many years ago the president of the school board, Chesterfield County School Board, that led that effort, and got a chance to shake his hand, and that was, you know, that was something special for me. And so I think you know, I think we can actually learn a lot from each other. We can learn a lot about our county and our history, and frankly, develop new empathy for others who maybe see things in a different way than we do. And that's, for me, that's why this process is so important. Not just doing the inventory, not just changing the name on a building or a street, but frankly, having this discussion and having really a discussion about what is important to us, what's important to us about our history, and also what it means today. So this is, I appreciate everybody participating in this process. And I think this won't be the last one. We're going to be having continued discussions. I do have to say, you know, I was thinking about it when John was suggesting another inventory. I'm not sure I want to throw another one at Barbara and Ann. That's you know,
We're busy with our African American initiative, so give us some time to work on that.
all right. I was going to say I might have to double your salary as volunteers.
That would be good. That would be good.
So, but no, thank you very much, and John, thank you for that suggestion. I think there is a lot for us to talk about what happened during those years, and reflect a little bit about what is important about that, and what we do want to highlight. Appreciate the suggestions by Jim as well on that, and others. So, do we have, Lisa? How are we doing on hands?
I think we are done with hands.
Okay, well, we had scheduled this until 8 o'clock. I don't want to, you know, the sun is almost down, but not quite. So if we wrap up now and folks want to get a short walk in, they could still do so, I think. Barbara or Ann, do you have any final closing thoughts or comments you'd like to make?
I will just take the opportunity to say that the Civil War trail marker that's on the courthouse grounds has already been changed and reflects a broader history, and that came out of all of this. So small steps have been made already, and I think that gives us all energy. So I thank you all for coming and participating.
Well, thank you, Barbara, and thank you, as always. Great work again on this.
For doing this tonight. I think this was a really, really interesting conversation. I look forward to more of them.
Me
I do
too.
too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all, and everybody have a nice rest of your evening, and don't hesitate to call my office or contact my office on any of these or other local issues. So
Thank
have a
you
good
so
evening,
much.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.